The Galactic Council. Ambassador Zarn of the Krillian Empire stood before the gathered representatives of the Galactic Council, his purple robes shimmering under the chamber's artificial light. The ancient vaulted hall echoed with the murmurs of 100 alien races, each more strange and varied than the last. The petition from Earth to join this council is preposterous. Zarn slammed a clawed fist against the podium. Humans are a young, fragile species, barely a flicker in the lifespan of our civilizations. What can they offer us that we do not already possess? The Zithrax delegate, a crystalline being that refracted light like a living prism, chimed agreement. Humans have no advanced technologies, no unique resources. They are but children grasping at the stars. Murmurs of assent rippled through the chamber. The Galactic Council had stood for 1,000,000 years, a bastion of cooperation and progress. What need had they for humanity? From the shadows of the human delegation's box, a lone figure emerged. He was unassuming, a plain-faced man in a simple black uniform. Yet as he approached the speaker's podium, a hush fell over the assembled aliens. "Honored council members," the man began, his voice quiet yet firmly resonant. "I am Commander Elias Kane of Earth. Humanity comes to you not as beggars, but as equals." Zarn scoffed, his flexible neck curling with disdain. "And what, pray tell, do you base this claim on?" Kane's eyes, dark and depthless, met Zarn's without flinching. "We have walked in the shroud for centuries, Ambassador. We have seen what lurks in the spaces between thought and dream." A wave of shocked murmurs filled the chamber. The shroud, the nightmarish realm of pure psionic energy. Impossible. The human deludes himself, cried the Zithrax, but a note of uncertainty wavered in its chiming voice. Kane raised a hand, and a ripple of invisible force washed through the room. Council members flinched as they felt the ghostly touch of his mind. "We do not delude ourselves, Counselor. Alone among the races of the galaxy, we have learned to navigate the darkest tides of the psyche. And we offer this knowledge to you." As quickly as it had come, the psionic pressure vanished. In its wake was utter, perfect silence. Elias Kane, the unassuming human, smiled a tight, knowing smile. "The shroud is rising, esteemed council. The hour fast approaches when your people will have need of us." With that, he turned and strode from the chamber, leaving a galaxy of stunned alien eyes staring after him. In the shadows of the human delegation, satisfied smiles passed from face to face. The seeds of humanity's ascension had been planted. Now they need only wait for the coming storm. The shroud revealed. Deep in the vaults of the Zithrax crystal hold, a tremor shook ancient catacombs. Amid a shower of scintillating dust, a crack appeared in the side of an enormous amethyst geode, the final resting place of the Zithrax ancestor kings. As the fissure widened, a tide of oily shadows seeped from within, coalescing into a nightmarish figure. Obsidian claws stretched towards the crystal ceiling, while a maw of pure darkness split the entity's featureless face. The Shroudbound had awoken. A fell screaming as the Shroudbound invaded their minds, dissolving their thoughts in a black miasma of primal fear. Far away in the Galactic Council headquarters, Commander Elias Kane watched impassively as panicked reports filtered in. A grim smile tugged at his lips. The human delegation had predicted this. Ancient Zithrax texts spoke of a slumbering evil locked away beneath the crystal hold, a creature born of the shroud in eons past, before the Zithrax learned to fear and seal away psionic energies. Ambassador Zarn burst into the council chamber, his scales ashen with terror. "The Zithrax homeworld is besieged," he cried. "A monster out of darkest legends has awakened, and even now enslaves our people to his will. We cannot stop it." Overlapping pleas filled the room as the council races volunteered aid. War fleets, planet crackers, null psi fields, all were offered up. But Kane's voice cut through the clamor. "Your weapons will only feed it," he said solemnly. "Your minds will be broken long before its shell. Only those tempered in the shroud can hope to stand against a Shroudbound." His gaze swept the chamber, human eyes hard as flint. This is what we tried to warn you of. The Shroud is not merely a realm of potential, it is the womb of horrors beyond imagining. And now one has been unleashed upon the galaxy. A shudder ran through the assembled aliens. They had dismissed humanity's claims, certain in their own supremacy. Now annihilation itself was at the door, wearing an unfathomable face born of their own hubris. Kane stepped forward, an island of calm in the storm of fear. Humanity will end this, but you must give us what we need. Access to your infrastructure, command over your fleets, authority to act without restraint. The council representatives bristled at the demands even through their terror. To hand such power to the young, brash humans, unthinkable. But the alternatives, death, enslavement, madness, were far worse. And so, with leaden hearts and trembling limbs, the Galactic Council submitted to humanity's yoke. The age of man had begun, heralded by a tide of night rising from the depths of the Shroud. Even if the galaxy survived, it would never be the same. Humans take the lead. In a Spartan briefing room on Earth's moon, Commander Elias Kane faced a dozen grim expressions. Hand-picked from the finest psionic operatives humanity had to offer, this team represented the last hope for a galaxy teetering on the brink of annihilation. "You all know the score," Kane said, his voice hard as granite. "The Zithrax Shrewdbound is rampaging across the galaxy, enslaving every sapient mind it encounters. Conservative estimates put its thrall horde at over 1 billion and rising." A wave of uneasy murmurs rippled through the room. Billion mind gestals were spoke of only in the darkest psionic lore, whispered warnings of the all-consuming power born from the Shroud. Kane called up a holo schematic, the Shroudbound's awful visage floating in the center of the room. "This is our target," codename Rend. A Class 5 autonomous psi entity subsumed by the Shroud and reborn as a conduit for its hunger. It will not stop until every thinking creature is absorbed into its essence. "Rules of engagement," asked a scared woman, her eyes twin pools of psionic silver. "Asha Kir, the most powerful telepath humanity had ever produced." "There are none," Kane replied grimly. "Rend cannot be reasoned with, bargained with, or contained. It must be destroyed, no matter the cost." He met each operative's gaze in turn, unflinching. "I will not lie to you. Even for a cadre of your strength, these will be the most harrowing trials of your lives. We will be pitting human will against the very essence of madness. Some of you will break, others will die. But if there is to be any hope for the galaxy, any future for our species, Rend must fall." Silence, heavy as a singularity's heart, swallowed the room. Then, as one, the operatives stood, jaws set and eyes aflame with defiant resolve. They had trained their entire lives for this moment, honing their psionic edge against the whetstone of the Shroud. They were humanity's best. They would not falter. Could not, if life was to endure. "Get your teams in order," Kane nodded. "We board the Zithrax Dreadnought Crystal Fury in 1 hour. It will be carrying us and elite psionic units from a dozen council races straight to the front lines." As the operatives filed out, Kerr fell into step beside Kane, her quick strides easily matching his. "This is why you always pushed us so hard," she said softly, realization dawning. "Why you forged us in the Shroud's fires with no mercy. You knew this day would come." Kane was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was distant, haunted. "I have walked in the space behind dreams, Asha. I have seen the tides of infinity and felt the terrible things that swim within. This battle has always been our destiny, our damnation." He turned to her then, his eyes twin pits of shadow against shadow. "Rend is only the beginning, a herald of the nightmares to come. If we survive, if we triumph, it will be only the first step on a road lined with the tombs of stars. But we will walk it nonetheless, for we must. We are human." With those words hanging in the air like a prophecy of apocalypse, Kane strode away, his shoulders bowed beneath the weight of a galaxy's fate. Asha watched him go, a shiver tracing down her spine. The war for the shroud, for sanity itself, was about to begin, and she would be in the vanguard, a dauntless light against the rising dark. No matter the cost, no matter the sacrifice, for she too was human, and she would not yield. Not now, not ever. The shroud would learn to fear humanity's shadow. Training the Psionics. The belly of the Zithrax dreadnought Crystalfury shuddered as the great ship knifed through warped space, drawn to the psychic maelstrom that had once been the Zithrax homeworld. Within its labyrinthine halls, an army of psychic soldiers prepared for the battle that would define the fate of a galaxy. In a stark, circular chamber lined with psionic dampeners, Asha Kher stood at the center of a ring of aliens, each wearing the colors of their Sekor. Zithrax, Krelian, Vukar, races that had once viewed humanity with dismissal, now looked to her with a desperate hope bordering on reverence. "The Shroud cares nothing for your technology," Asha said, her voice resonant with psionic weight. "Your energy shields, your null psi fields, they are gossamer before the hurricane of its wrath. To face the Shroud-bound, you must first face the shadows in your own souls." With a thought, she conjured a whirling nimbus of psychic energy, raw and untamed. The alien trainees flinched back, their minds instinctively recoiling from the Shroud's touch. "This fear," Asha continued relentlessly, "this primal terror you feel, this is what the enemy will use against you. It will peel back the layers of your consciousness like the skin of a fruit and feast upon the soft madness within. You must master your dread, or be mastered by it." She sent a probing tendril of thought towards a Zithrax warrior, its crystalline mind latticed with cracks of anxiety. "Skak," she called, "step forward. Let your brothers see how a child of the Shroud faces their nightmares." The Zithrax, mandibles trembling, stepped into the swirling nimbus. Instantly, its mind was assaulted by visions of its deepest fears, its crystal hold shattered, its hatchlings enslaved, its very sense of self dissolving into the hungering dark. Skak screamed, a keening wail that echoed in the minds of all present. But it did not fall. Slowly, with a supreme force of will, the Zithrax regained control, the psychic storm parting before a bulwark of pure adamantine resolve. Asha smiled, fierce and proud. "Well done, Skak. You have taken your first step into a larger universe, a universe of thought and will, where the only limits are those of your own conviction." One by one, the other trainees stepped forward, each facing their own hellscape of psychic horror, and one by one, they emerged changed, tempered, their minds shining with the hard-won light of mastery. As the last trainee completed their trial, the chamber doors hissed open. Commander Kane strode in, his face a mask of controlled urgency. "We have a problem," he said without preamble. "Long-range scans have detected a massive psychic surge near the edge of Zithrax space. It's rend, and it's moving to intercept us." Asha frowned. "It shouldn't be aware of our approach yet." "How?" "A trap," Kane interrupted grimly. "The surge is emanating from a derelict Zithrax psi beacon. Rend must have activated it to lure us in." A chill wind seemed to blow through the room, carrying with it the fetid reek of the void. They had trained to fight a nightmare. Now the nightmare was coming to them. Asha looked to her trainees, saw the fear warring with determination in their alien eyes. "We are ready, Commander," she said with a calm she did not feel. "The Shroud has taught us well. We will not falter." Kane nodded, his gaze distant as if peering into the teeth of an onrushing storm. "Then to your stations, all of you. We join the battle for the soul of the galaxy." As the trainees filed out, Asha caught Skak's arm. "Remember your training," she murmured. "In the heart of the Shroud, thought is reality. Your will is your sword and shield." The Zithrax placed a crystal claw over its breast, where a human heart would be. "And with it, I shall carve a path of light through the darkness," it vowed, "for the sake of all." Asha clasped its claw, human and alien united by the unbreakable threads of shared purpose and sacrifice. Then together, they went forth to meet their destiny amid the hungering shadows. The shroud rises. The Zithrax Psi beacon hung in the void like a poison dagger, its twisted form pulsing with a sickly, synaptic light. Around it swarmed a legion of biomechanical nightmares, the thralls of Rend, each a unique blasphemy of flesh and machine puppeted by the shroud's obscene will. On the bridge of the Crystal Fury, Commander Elias Kane gripped the command dais, his knuckles white beneath the translucent mesh of his Psi armor. The assembled might of the Galactic Council stretched out around him, 1,000 ships poised on the edge of annihilation. All units, prepare for psionic assault. Kane broadcast, his mind's voice echoing across the fleet. Focus your will, trust your training. Remember in the shroud, there is no death, only dissolution. Stand fast, stand firm, and we will prevail. Affirmations flooded back, a chorus of determination tempered by dread. They all knew the odds, knew that they faced an enemy that could unmake the very foundations of their being. But they would not yield, not while strength remained. Rend. Kane cast his thought into the miasmic abyss surrounding the Psi beacon. I name you deceiver, defiler, devourer of souls. By my will and the will of all free beings, I cast you back to the pit that spawned you. A shuddering pulse of psionic energy answered him, a burst of pure, distilled loathing that seared the fringes of his mind. Eroganity mote, the voice of Rend thundered, each word a spear of agonizing force. You dare praise me to command me. I who avcuppd and the agriming marrow of CTRs. I who am blvd of the KES. The thrall ships surged forward, a tide of twisted metal and malformed flesh. Psionic lightning crackled from their hulls, seeking to ground in the minds of the Allied fleet. But the fleet was ready. At a signal from Kane, 1,000 psychic wards snapped into place, turning the psionic assault back on itself. Thrall ships convulse as their own weaponized madness devoured them from within. Now, Kane roared, "For the and the soul of the Galactic." The Crystal Fury and its escort leaped into the fray, lances of pure, shielded thought stabbing out to pierce the hulls of the largest thrall dreadnoughts. Krillian void singers wove webs of maddening harmonics, luring whole squadrons to their doom. Vukar mind-eaters phased through the hulls of flagship abominations, devouring the minds of their shroud-touched crew. At the heart of the battle, Ashakir and her Sekork champions dueled the mightiest of Ren's minions, their psychic forms blazing like newborn suns amid the darkness. Besides them fought Shtak and the alien elites, wielding their newly honed psionic might like scalpels to excise the shroud's corruption. It was a battle unlike any the galaxy had ever seen, fought as much in the realm of the mind as in the physical plane. Psychic constructs the size of moons grappled with shroud-wrought horrors from the darkest crevices of the subconscious. Vast webs of mental force caught and turned tides of insanity. And through it all, the awful, hungering presence of Rend loomed, drinking in the cyclone of released psionic energy, like an eldritch god at a sacrificial feast. Slowly, painfully, the Allied fleets pushed towards the Psi beacon, the nexus of Ren's power. But for every thrall ship they destroyed, every abomination they unmade, a dozen more rose to take their place, drawn from the infinite well of madness that was the shroud. Kane, his mind stretched to the breaking point by the ceaseless assault, despaired. They could not win this, could not defeat the shroud made manifest. No mortal will could prevail against the very womb of nightmares. Then, at the moment of darkest dread, a voice whispered in his mind, a voice he knew, a voice he had followed into the abyss, and back since the day he first looked upon the face of the shroud. "Remember why we fight, Elias," Ashakir murmured, her psychic presence like a cool hand on his fevered brow. "Remember what we protect. In the shroud, will is all." And no will is stronger than that of a human defending what they love. And with those words, a fire ignited in Cain's soul, a blaze of pure, defiant humanity that seared away the clinging shadows of doubt and despair. He was human, a child of earth and all her indomitable spirit. And he would not fail, would not falter, while strength and hope endured. With a roar that shook the very fabric of space-time, Cain gathered the flames of his will and hurled them at the heart of Ren's darkness. A lance of pure, unyielding conviction pierced the shroud-bound's essence, shattering its psionic shell and bearing the writhing madness within. Into that breach poured the united will of every mind on the allied fleet, human and Zithrax, Krelian and Vukar, bound together by the unbreakable ties of comradeship, forged in the crucible of the shroud. A kaleidoscope of psychic power, dazzling in its diversity yet singular in its purpose, crashed against the reeling core of Rend. For an eternal instant, the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Then, with a silent scream that echoed in the nightmares of generations yet unborn, the shroud-bound's essence collapsed, its power and malevolence sucked back into the howling abyss that birthed it. In its wake, a stillness descended, broken only by the distant thunder of psionic energy settling back into its natural flow. The Psi beacon, its purpose served, crumbled to dust, while the surviving thrall ships hung dead and lifeless. Aboard the Crystal Fury, Cain slumped against the command dais, his armor smoking, his mind raw and bleeding. But beneath the pain was a song of triumph, fierce and proud. They had done it. Against odds beyond reckoning, the Allied fleets had stood against a nightmare and emerged unbroken. But as he surveyed the shattered hulks drifting amid the stars, each a tomb for hundreds of valiant souls, Cain knew their victory had come at a terrible cost. A cost that would only grow steeper as the Shroud's wrath bled deeper into their reality. For Rend was only the beginning, a herald of the greater horrors lurking in the psychic abyss. The war for the Shroud, for the soul of all life, had only just begun, and humanity would be at its vanguard, a beacon of indomitable will to light the galaxy's darkest night. But that was a battle for another day. For now there was only the chance to regroup, to heal, and to honor the fallen. Wearily, Cain turned to the task of picking up the pieces, his spirit battered but unbroken. For he was human, and humanity would always rise again, no matter how deep the darkness, no matter how long the night. Victory at a cost. In the shattered halls of the Galactic Council, the survivors of the battle against Rend gathered. They were a fragment of what they had once been, their ranks decimated by the Shroud's fury. But in their eyes burned a light that had not been there before, a light of hard-won wisdom, of unity forged in the fires of shared sacrifice. Commander Elias Cain stood before them, his uniform still stained with the psychic blood of Rend's minions. Besides him stood Ashakir and Shtak, the human and Zithrax warriors bound now by a kinship deeper than mere alliance. "We have faced the nightmare and emerged unbroken," Cain began, his voice heavy with the weight of the fallen. "We have shown that the will of sentient life, when united in common cause, can overcome even the darkest of horrors." He paused, his gaze sweeping over the assembled ranks of the Peace Corps, human and alien, once divided by suspicion and mistrust, now standing shoulder to shoulder as comrades in arms. "But our victory today is only the beginning," he continued grimly. "The Shroud is vast, its depths unplumbed and its terrors legion. Rend was but a single manifestation of its hunger. More will come, drawn to our reality by the psychic beacon of our defiance." A murmur ran through the gathering, a ripple of apprehension tempered by grim resolve. They had seen the face of the abyss, and though it had marked them, they now knew they had the strength to gaze back. Ashakir stepped forward, her psychic presence unfurling like a banner of unbreakable will. "We stand on the edge of a new age," she declared, her voice ringing with the clarity of prophecy. "An age where the boundaries between mind and matter, between thought and reality, will be forever blurred. The shroud rises, and we must rise to meet it. She turned to face the representatives of the council races, her eyes blazing silver. Humanity has walked this path before, in the long ages of our ascension. We have tasted the shroud's poison, and learned to transmute it into the elixir of transcendence. Now, we offer our hard-won wisdom to you, our brothers and sisters in the psychic arts. Skak raised its crystal claw, the gesture a sign of sacred compact among the Zithrax. The hatchlings of the crystal holes shall sing of this day for generations untold, it intoned solemnly. They shall sing of the unity between human and Zithrax, between all children of the stars. In the face of the shroud's shadow, we shall stand as one, now and forevermore. One by one, the representatives of the council races stepped forward, each pledging their own oaths of alliance, of eternal fellowship in the war against the shroud. Krelian and Vukar, Sanashi and Quell, all set aside the ancient rivalries, the petty squabbles that had once divided them. In the face of the rising dark, there could be no division. Only the united will of all life, a psychic bulwark against the hungering void. As the last oath was sworn, Cain raised his hand, and a hush fell over the assembly. Then let us go forth, he said, his words a solemn vow. Let us rebuild, rearm, and stand vigilant against the shroud's return. For we are the guardians now, the shepherds of sanity in a galaxy besieged by madness. And though the night may grow ever darker, though the horrors may press ever closer, we shall not falter. For we are the children of earth and the heirs of the stars, and we shall stand, unbroken and unbowed, until the very end of days. With those words, the assembly disbanded, each to their own ships and worlds, to take up the long watch against the rising dark. But they did not go alone, for they carried with them the embers of a new hope, a new unity kindled in the crucible of the shroud. The galaxy would never be the same. The old order, the old certainties had been burned away, replaced by a new truth, a truth of psychic fellowship, of minds and souls joined against the night. And at the center of this new order stood humanity, the race that had first dared to walk in the shroud's shadow and returned changed but unbroken. They had shown the galaxy the true face of courage, the indomitable will that could reshape reality itself. And in doing so, they had lit a beacon that would shine across the stars, a call to all the races of the cosmos to stand together against the coming storm. The age of man, the age of the psychic union, had begun. And though the road ahead would be dark and fraught with peril, there was now hope. Hope that the light of unity would banish the shroud's shadow. Hope that the galaxy would dream again, free and unfettered. Hope for a future where the nightmares held no sway, and all life walked the stars in fellowship and peace. Dr. Tanaka, Zora shouted over the din. We need to stabilize those chambers now. But before Yuki could respond, a new voice boomed through the room. Glorious, he ate. More. We may and do more. To Zora's horror, she saw the Pyrosian delegation had emerged from their chamber, their magma-like bodies glowing bright orange. They were moving towards the main pool, leaving scorched footprints in their wake. No, wait, Zora cried. But it was too late. The lead Pyrosian had already cannonballed into the water. The result was spectacular, if terrifying. Steam exploded upwards as the superheated alien hit the water, creating a miniature geyser. Nearby aliens scrambled to get away, creating a wave of panic that rippled through the entire bathhouse. I thought you said this would be relaxing. Kron chittered accusingly at Zora as he scuttled by, his exoskeleton dripping wet. The Blob Collective, in their attempt to flee, had accidentally merged into one giant, panicked superblob that was now rolling uncontrollably through the facility, absorbing smaller aliens in its path. Oh no, not again, one absorbed alien's muffled voice could be heard saying. Meanwhile, the Florins, in their terror, had triggered an emergency defense mechanism. They were now shooting high-velocity seeds in all directions, peppering the walls and unfortunate bystanders. Apologies. Elder Oakenheart creaked as he spun like a botanical sprinkler. Involuntary response to stress. Zara ducked to avoid a barrage of seeds, her mind racing. This was rapidly spinning out of control. She needed to act fast. "Idea," she commanded. "Activate Protocol Omega." "Are you sure, Captain?" the AI asked, its tone serious. "Protocol Omega has never been tested in real-world conditions." "We don't have a choice," Zara replied grimly. "Do it." Suddenly, the room was filled with a soft, pulsing blue light. A gentle hum permeated the air, and almost immediately, the panic began to subside. Aliens of all species found themselves involuntarily relaxing, their aggression and fear melting away. What is this?" Kexizok chimed, his crystalline form vibrating softly. "Protocol Omega," Zara explained, feeling the calming effects herself. "It's a combination of light therapy, sound waves, and pheromones designed to induce a state of calm across a wide range of species. We developed it as a last resort for diplomatic emergencies." As the chaos settled, Zora could finally assess the situation. The pyrogen in the main pool had cooled and solidified, forming a rather artistic obsidian sculpture in the center of the bath. The superblob was slowly releasing its absorbed victims, who emerged looking dazed but unharmed. Even the Florins had stopped their seedy assault, their leaves now swaying gently in the calm atmosphere. "Captain," Dr. Tanaka approached, looking frazzled but relieved. "We've managed to stabilize the temperature in Sector 7. The crisis is averted." Zara nodded, allowing herself a small sigh of relief. But she knew they weren't out of the woods yet. The diplomats would be coming out of their artificially induced calm soon, and she'd have to face the consequences of this near disaster. As if on cue, Ambassador Kron approached, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "Captain Chen," he began, and Zara braced herself for the worst. That was invigorating. Zara blinked in surprise. "I'm sorry." "What?" "Oh yes," Kron continued enthusiastically. "We arthropodians are not used to such excitement. The sudden temperature changes, the unexpected obstacles, the need for quick thinking. It was like a highly advanced military training exercise." Before Zara could respond, other diplomats began chiming in. "Indeed," hummed Kexizok. "The vibrations from the alarms were most stimulating to my crystalline structure. I feel positively rejuvenated." The Blob Collective, now fully separated, burbled happily. The experience of merging with other life forms was enlightening. "We have gained new perspectives." Even Elder Oakenheart seemed pleased. "I haven't produced so many seeds in centuries," he creaked. "I feel young again." As more and more aliens expressed their unexpected enjoyment of the chaotic event, Zara felt a laugh bubble up inside her. It was absurd, it was unexpected, but somehow it had worked. "Well," she said, shaking her head in amused disbelief, "I suppose this is what we humans call going with the flow." The diplomats looked at her quizzically, and Zara realized she had an opportunity. "You see," she explained, "humans often find that the most memorable and enjoyable experiences come from embracing unexpected challenges. We call it adventure." A murmur of interest ran through the crowd. "This adventure," Kron clicked. "It is a common practice among humans." Zara grinned. "Oh yes, very common. In fact, many humans seek out new and exciting experiences regularly. It's part of what drives us to explore the galaxy." The aliens exchanged glances, a new understanding dawning in their eyes, or equivalent sensory organs. "Perhaps," Kexizok chimed thoughtfully, "we have underestimated the value of unpredictability. This adventure concept merits further study." As the diplomats began to discuss excitedly among themselves, Zara felt a tap on her shoulder. It was Dr. Tanaka, a bemused expression on her face. "So," Yuki said quietly, "we're calling this a success then?" Zara looked around at the scene. The still steaming pools, the scattered seeds beginning to sprout on the wet floor, the obsidian sculpture that was once a Pyrosian, and a crowd of excited aliens discussing the merits of controlled chaos. She couldn't help but laugh. You know what, Yuki? I think we are. It may not have gone according to plan, but we definitely made an impression. And isn't that what cultural exchange is all about? As they stood there, watching the birth of a new galactic appreciation for the human concept of adventure, neither of them could have predicted just how far-reaching the consequences of this chaotic bath would be. But that, as they say, is a story for another time. Aftermath and unexpected outcomes. In the days following the now infamous Great Galactic Bath Incident, the Galactic Unity Station buzzed with activity of a different kind. Instead of the usual diplomatic negotiations and scientific conferences, the halls were filled with excited chatter about adventure tourism and extreme relaxation techniques. Captain Zara Chen found herself at the center of it all, fielding endless questions and requests from alien diplomats eager to experience more of humanity's unique approach to life. Captain Chen called out Ambassador Gukron, scuttling up to her with uncharacteristic enthusiasm. My hive has been discussing your concept of adventure nonstop. We're considering implementing mandatory unexpected situation drills in all our colonies. Zara suppressed a chuckle. That's wonderful, Ambassador. Just remember, the key to true adventure is that it can't be entirely planned. Gukron's antennae twitched in confusion. Unplanned mandatory drills. How delightfully paradoxical. We'll need to form a committee to discuss how to implement unplanned events immediately. As Gukron hurried off, already calling for his aides, Zara shook her head in amusement. The Arthropodians weren't the only ones embracing the chaos. The Blob Collective had announced plans for a new extreme sport they called quantum merging, inspired by their accidental super blob formation during the incident. Even the usually stoic Voltaic Confederation was getting in on the act. They had approached Dr. Tanaka about developing an unpredictable current generator for use in their relaxation chambers back home. Captain, Aida's holographic form shimmered into view beside her. You have an incoming call from Earth. It's the UN Cultural Affairs Committee. Zara took a deep breath. This was the call she'd been both anticipating and dreading. Put them through, Aida. The stern face of Admiral Hiroshi Tanaka, head of the committee, and coincidentally, Dr. Yuki Tanaka's father, appeared before her. His expression was unreadable. Captain Chen, he began, his voice grave, we've received the reports about the incident during your cultural exchange event. Zara stood at attention, bracing herself. Yes, Admiral, I take full responsibility for responsibility. Admiral Tanaka interrupted, his serious expression suddenly breaking into a wide grin. My dear, do you have any idea what you've done? Confused, Zora could only stare as the Admiral continued. In the past week, we've received more requests for cultural exchange programs with Earth than in the entire year since we joined the galactic community. The Galactic Council is buzzing about humanity's unique perspective and invaluable approach to problem-solving. You've single-handedly elevated Earth's status in the galaxy. Zara blinked, struggling to process this information. But sir, the event was a disaster. There was property damage, multiple safety protocols were breached. We had to use an untested psychological influence protocol. Admiral Tanaka waved his hand dismissively. Details, details. The important thing is the outcome. The aliens loved it. They're calling it a breakthrough in interspecies understanding. The Galactic Council is even considering making controlled chaos events a regular part of their team-building exercises. As the Admiral's words sank in, Zara felt a mix of relief, pride, and utter disbelief wash over her. They had done